Well, hey there, my friend. Welcome back to the show. My name is Deanna Yates, and you are listening to episode 276 of the Wannabe Clutter Free podcast. So, one of my favorite parts about having a podcast is the incredible people I get to meet. And today's guest, Amanda Jefferson, is one of those people. So, Amanda and I actually have met outside of the podcast world. We actually met in real life at a podcast conference. So, again, one way it just leads me into being able to meet some amazing people. So, let's learn about her. She is a tech and productivity coach, she's a TEDx speaker, and she was one of the very first KonMari consultants. She's been featured everywhere from Business Insider to Real Simple, and she is passionate about helping busy women train their tech to work for them, not against them. Now, in our conversation, we are going to talk about digital decluttering. She's going to walk us through the tech traps that trip us up and her focus method that helps you feel more calm in control of your digital life. She has such a gift for taking these overwhelming topics and making them feel simple and doable. And she's just like super friendly and like just fun to be around. So I think you're going to really love this one. And she gets into some deeper things too. And she also talks about how being in control of her technology, having her technology and all of her digital life in order has really helped her overcome one of the toughest periods in her life. And we get a little deep. I think you're going to really like it. But before we dive in, I want to say a quick thank you, of course, to you for spending time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, will you please take a moment and subscribe, hit that follow button so you don't miss any of the amazing conversations that I have planned for you. I just lined up a bunch of interviews for the next couple months, and they are juicy, guys. They're really great. You're going to love them. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on them. And as always, thank you so much for being a big part of this community. I couldn't do without you. I am so happy and glad you are here. And I hope you find the support that you need through this community. So reach out if you need anything, if you have any questions. I would love to be able to be that resource for you. And then, of course, we talk a lot about links and different things. So make sure you are getting all of the links at the show notes, either down below or there's probably a link to my website where you can get more information. And that is wannabeclutterfree.com/276. All right, let's get into our conversation. Well, hey, Amanda, thank you for joining us on Wanna Be Clutter Free. How you doing today?
I am so good. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm really happy to have you. So this is your second time on the show, but what has happened between the last time we recorded and now is that we have actually met in real life. So now I feel like I'm talking to an actual friend, which I feel like I'm friends with anyone that comes on this podcast anyway, but it's so nice to actually see you and get to chat again.
I know. It was so fun getting together with you. I have so many online friends that I don't necessarily get a chance to meet in real life. And so we got hung out at a conference and we got to have lunch at dinner and all that good stuff. It was really fun.
It really was. Yeah, it was great to learn together, but just get to have girl time, which was really fun as well. All right, so we're going to talk about technology. And I love that, like in your bio, I've already talked about how you were one of the first KonMari consultants, which I think is so cool. But also, you have now transitioned away from all of the physical stuff to help people with their digital clutter. And so tell us a little bit about what you do, because I'm probably not going to do it justice. So go for it.
Yeah. And I have to say before I start that my dog is snoring and she snores really loudly. So if you hear a little something in the background, that is her. And I can't move her to a different room because then she'll just scratch. It's a whole thing. Yeah, so I am a tech and productivity coach. I started my business, Indigo Organizing, in 2016, 17, and I started as one of the world's first KonMari consultants, and I was working in people's homes and helping them to identify what sparks joy, how to simplify their lives. And about maybe about 6 years into it, a couple years ago, there just felt like there was this huge elephant in the room that it just felt like the digital clutter was coming fast and furious. And it wasn't so much like the older folks anymore that were like, how do I manage this? It was everybody that was just like, I am overwhelmed by emails, files. And I've always been kind of a techie. I love problem solving. And as someone who was working with a little one at home and all of that, I felt like there's a way that we can learn how to use this tech that we have in our hands to make our lives easier. So that's kind of like the mountaintop that I shout off of right now. Like, you don't have to be overwhelmed by your tech. In fact, I can teach you how to use it in a way that's going to make your life so much easier. So that's kind of where we are now.
Love it. Love it. Okay. Sometimes, though, when people hear digital clutter or technology, they kind of get like either freak out, their eyes glaze over, they're just like, I don't know what to do, kind of that deer in headlights. So, how do you define digital clutter in a way that makes people say, like, okay, one, yes, that's me. And two, okay, you're going to help me solve this and it's not going to be as scary?
Yeah. So digital clutter is basically just kind of it's our emails, it's our passwords, our files, our photos. We're walking around like these phones that we have in our hands. These are like $2,000 supercomputers. And, they're just kind of handed to us in these pretty white boxes like, good luck. And they literally don't have a user manual. And I think it can be so quickly overwhelming with just like notifications coming at us. And I think for busy moms and busy women in particular, the mental load is kind of like death by a thousand cuts. And I think when I could teach people how to eliminate that digital clutter and that constant barrage of stuff coming in, I could take away like half of those cuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. It is. And I think it's one of those things that just sneaks up on you. I call those moments like the frog in the pot of boiling water, right? Like, I'm okay. Oh, this is kind of, oh, okay, I'm okay, okay. I'm not okay. Like, this is not okay anymore. I am overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. And I'm so frustrated. And I just want to throw my $2,000 supercomputer into the pond or ocean and get rid of it forever. And then we can't do that, of course. So you've coined something called the tech traps. Can you break down what those are and why they're the sneaky culprits that are draining our time, focus, and our energy?
Yes, because I love putting an acronym to everything. Okay, this is the acronym that I came up with this one because I was seeing, now that I have several years under my belt working one-on-one with clients and teaching courses, I see the same things over and over again. And so it's TRAPS is the acronym, and the T stands for thousands of emails. R is random files everywhere. A is awkward password management. P is photo overload, and S is stuck on the learning curve. So those first four are sort of like the categories I mentioned before of where people see tons of digital clutter, but that fifth category is really all about like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this thing could do this thing, and now my life is so much easier. So a lot of that is like you don't even know what you don't know kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So do you have any quick, like, what are one of the you don't know what you don't know kind of things that you've seen that's really super simple that you're like, these are how easy they can be?
Right. So I'm actually doing a series right now on Instagram. I think I'm on part day 8 or something like that, which is tech tips you can do in less than 60 seconds that will make your life so much easier. And this is an example of one of those things. So, like, for example, if you're a Mac Apple user, you can copy and paste between devices. You can copy something on your Mac and then paste it on your phone. And I was talking to a business owner the other day. She has like 150,000 followers on Instagram. She's, super savvy. And she was mentioning to me that in order to post on Instagram, she was texting herself. And I was like, honey, did you know that you can do this? And she almost like cried. She was like, are you kidding me? So it's those little things that like, oh my gosh, I can copy and paste between my MacBook and my phone, or something like Chrome bookmarks. Nobody's ever going to come to me and be like, I'm really struggling with my Chrome bookmarks. But when I teach them, like, hey, did you know that you can have a folder and put all of you're planning your Italy trip and you can have a folder and put all of your Italy stuff in there. They're like, oh my God, I didn't know that was possible. So it's those kind of things, or like shortcuts. Like my tip today or yesterday was like, press Control Command Space to pull up the emojis menu. And people are like, oh my God, I always wondered how to get to the emojis, just things like that.
I'm always like, oh my God, I pulled up the emojis again. But I love that. I'm going to have to go look at that copy paste one because I agree. I put my things in notes, but because then I know that syncs across, but I'm going to see if there must be an easier way. I'm really excited about it.
Yes, I think it's tech tip number 2 or 1.
I'm going to check it out. All right. That's awesome. All right. So, where do you suggest people start? Like, if they're looking at this and they're like, okay, yeah, Amanda, I'm on board. Like, this is hard. I feel like I've got 1,001 cuts going. What do I do? So, like, if their phone, laptop, inbox just feels like that black hole, like, what's the first baby step that you recommend that makes a difference without them feeling like I got to quit my job and do this?
Yeah. Yeah, so usually I'll have, them take a look at the tech traps and sort of identify which is the one that's causing you the most pain. And then we could start there. So if they're like, "Oh my gosh, my passwords are driving me crazy," or, "My email is just overflowing." So usually we'll start with what's stressing them out the most and then work our way through. But usually what I try to do is because a lot of times what happens, like, for example, with our email, there's tons of information out there or tips out there like, "Go through your email for 30 minutes every day." But if you have 300,000 emails and you're completely overwhelmed and you don't know how all the bells and whistles work, then it's really hard to just get in there. So I try to teach people. I think what's really helpful and why I try to put out these really simple guides for people is to teach them the basics. Like, did you know that in Gmail you can right click on an email and it will bring up all of the emails from that sender and you can delete like 3,000 emails in one click? When I start to teach them those basics, they're like, "I got it," and then they're off and running, and so I think that usually is the first step. It's not figuring out what to do, it's figuring out exactly how to do it so that you can do it kind of work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I know what you're saying, like about basics. Like, yes, something might seem really simple, but if you're not doing it, right? Or maybe you're like, oh, wow, that was all I had to do. And you're like, okay, well, great. Now you have a solution to your problem. And then maybe you might have known it. Like, there's a lot of things that happens to me in that, like, in that category. Like, I kind of knew I was supposed to do something, or I remembered, like, I was told a year ago, but life just got in the way and I kind of forgot about it. And then you like remind me, and I'm like, oh, right. It's not as hard as I was making it out to be. It can be something really simple. And don't we all love simple fixes that actually solve the problems? I'm all for it. Like, yeah, bring it on.
For sure. Like, I'm so addicted to the tips that I'm offering this week because they're so quick. Like, this is like car line season. Like, all those moms are sitting in car line. And like, I just taught this week that, even on the Gmail app, you can click and hit manage subscriptions. And from there, you can see all of your different newsletters that you're getting, delete them in one fell swoop, unsubscribe. Like, that's a car line activity. That's a 10-minute thing that you can, like, just do while you're sitting there instead of scrolling mindlessly.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's really smart. Okay, let's get to another one of your acronyms. You have the focus method, right? So I'd love for you to walk us through that. What is it? How does it help women with their digital chaos?
Yeah, so the focus method was something that I came up with when I was sort of transitioning from this physical clutter world to this idea of the mental clutter and the digital clutter. So the focus method is all about kind of very much in line with that idea of the mental load, taking everything that you have in your brain, dumping it out, and then sifting through it to decide, like, okay, the math is not mathing. This is not all mathematically possible for one person. So, how am I going to decide what gets done and what doesn't? F is finish it. So, a lot of times that's just like, okay, you just got to call the dentist. Like, just pick up the phone, take the 10 minutes and call the dentist, right? But then I also add to F, fuel up. Like, what are the things that you actually enjoy doing? Like, do you like, I don't know, sitting out in the sun on your back porch? Do you like whatever it is, fuel up too. So the O is outsource it. And I talk on my Instagram stories all the time about my partner that I have here in the Philly area, DB Cleaning. That's like my big favorite outsource is a cleaning company. I'll like fight till the death for that. C is cut it. What can you just not do? Sure, somebody might be disappointed, somebody might be upset, but like, could you just not do it? U is uncomplicate it. So how can I make this so much easier? Just like, okay, I've been sitting on this client proposal that I need to do for a week and it's going to just take me forever. Like, what if you made it a 15-minute email and called it a day? And S is scooch it. That means like scooch it down, push it to later. And that's just like, do I need to be renovating my kitchen during busy graduation season or that sort of thing? But you just have to be careful with the scooch because if you're scooching and scooching, it might mean that you need to go back to the drawing board and outsource or cut it or uncomplicate it. So I use that method and I even have like a freebie that we can put in your show notes where it's like, because we have to get tech involved, it's a Google Sheet where you can brain dump everything into the Google Sheet and then you can actually categorize it by outsource, cut, etc.
Oh, I like it. I was reading a business book recently, and the idea of cut it, when you said that, it made me think of it. And granted, this is a different kind of a scenario, but he was talking about how he invested in a business and he made sure that the right people were running it, right? So he made sure that he had smart, capable people running it. And oftentimes, because he only answers his email a couple times a day, and he said, oftentimes by the time I get back to the email, because they are smart, capable people, they have already solved their own problems. They've already come up with the solution or brought him an idea that would solve it. And so it just made me think of that. Like, what if we thought about the people in our lives as smart and capable people that are able to do a lot of these things on their own, and we don't have to be the one holding it so tight or clutching onto it, trying to fix it and trying to be in control of everything? Are there those things like that you can just maybe let go, give a little bit of freedom, be there as the backup resource if people do actually need your help at the end? But could we start from that place of cutting it more, faster than we probably do right now in our lives?
100%. And I think in my relationship, I think I kind of had some kind of traditional baggage that I was carrying around about how much, not, I think I'm totally subconscious. I just found myself doing so much more than my husband. And of course, he's like, cool. But then, it's great. I mean, who wouldn't want that, right? But then, even just stuff like I do so like, and now he just does all the cooking, all the grocery shopping, and I love it. And it's just like talk about death by a thousand cuts, like that takes away like 200 cuts right there. And it's so nice. And so I was realizing that there were so many things that I was taking on. And then I was like, wait a second, I have this whole other human here that could be doing a lot more of this. And yeah, I think we as women really we have to dump it all out and look at it and be like, does this make sense?
Yeah. It is, because it is easy for the default, and especially if you were raised in a very traditional house, the default to be, "Oh, okay, it falls on me, but maybe it doesn't have to." So yeah, love those tips. Yeah, those are fantastic. All right. So one of your traps was photos. And I know a lot of us, well, I mean, I think one of the reasons a lot of people upgrade their phones or used to was because the storage issue of like, well, I bought the 8 gig phone. Now there's a 16 gig. Now there's a 32. Now there's a 64. Now there's 128. Maybe I should just upgrade my phone instead of dealing with my photos, because I think there's also a lot of emotional baggage that comes with photos. Like, those are all my memories. And if our house is on fire, photos are always the first thing people will grab after the people and pets are safe. But, it's so interesting. I think there's so many emotions that come along with our photos. So that's one reason we don't deal with them, but also it just feels really heavy. So how do you like to start looking at photos so we don't get into that spiral of guilt or overwhelm or
Yeah, because it's a lot like emails or any other digital stuff. There's so much of it that when you're looking at, 18,000 photos, it's just easier to just wave the white flag and be like, I don't know where to start. And so I give up. I think with photos, I like to ask people a lot of times, like, what is your end game? Like, do you really wish that you had photo books printed out? Do you really wish that you could just put your finger on your favorite picture of your dog really quickly? Do you really wish that you had everything for your kitchen renovation all in one place? Like, what is it that you want? Do you really want to have all of your pictures from the beginning of time organized in 2022, 2023? Like, what are we trying to do here? And then once you kind of identify that, then you can kind of work backwards from that. I like to use an app called the Cleaner Kit, which is an iPhone app. That's my favorite one. And it's really great because it will go into your photo library and immediately slash and burn duplicates and blurry photos and It'll show you like landscapes. You took a picture, 17 pictures of a sunset 4 years ago, and it will help you delete those. It'll even identify duplicates. So if you took 20 pictures of your kid in front of a tree, it'll say, we think this is the best one. Can we delete the rest? And then the other thing that it will do, which I really like, is it'll let you go month by month. So instead of looking at 18,000 photos, you're looking at August 2025, and there's 400 photos. So you're like, okay, I can handle that. And it even has kind of like a fun Tinder swipe aspect to it, where it's like, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And you can kind of decide which ones that you want to keep. The other fun hack that I've been trying to do recently is every day. Have you ever done this before where every day you go in and you search today's date?
Yes, I love that one.
Isn't that one so much fun? Because then you just get to see what in the heck was happening on September 18th for the past 10 years. And then I'd go ahead and decide, okay, I'm going to put these in albums. And so then by the end, 365 days, in theory, you would have a completely organized photo album.
Yeah. Oh, I love that tip. I do love the calendar method. It's fun. And even if I don't do it all the time, like it's just a fun way to have like one of those moments of like, I feel like going down memory lane. I have a little bit of time today, or I just want to be a little nostalgic. So yeah, I love it. I think that's a really fun one. So cool.
Yeah, and one more thing I would say about photos is my favorite tool to print photos is chapbooks. I love them. I have a podcast, the Good Enough-ish podcast, and we actually interviewed the CEO of Chapbooks and the founder a couple months ago. She's amazing. They are amazing, but it's the world's simplest because it's literally just there's no like, oh, do I want this to be landscape and all this kind of stuff. It's just one photo per page. Easy peasy. They're really affordable. And I always say to people, like, you don't have to go back to when your kids were newborns. Like, do a summer 2025 album. Like, just start now. Get that quick win. And then when life gets less hectic, you can go back if you want.
Yeah. Oh, so fun. All right. I'll have to look into chapbooks. I haven't used them before. That sounds fun. All right, Amanda, I want to get a little more serious because I saw an article you did in Business Insider recently, and it had to do with when your dad recently passed. And so, do you mind talking to us a little bit about that and what insights you had kind of around the digital clutter in that instance as well?
Yeah, that was such a special one to do. So I am a contributor at Business Insider now, and my most recent article was about how surprised I was that being organized with my digital clutter actually helped my family grieve at a difficult time because instead of being stressed out about all of the different things that we had to do, it was a lot more seamless. We can put a link in the show notes to that, but I basically shared lots of different tips like, when my dad was starting to get really sick, I realized like, oh gosh, I kind of really need to go in here and figure out what accounts does he have and what are his passwords and make sure I have his power of attorney and all of this kind of stuff and got all that stuff scanned. I saved all his account numbers. I saved his passwords in my password manager under, a folder for him so that I could really seamlessly access his accounts. I learned that I could use my phone as a fax machine and that I could because you're literally faxing death certificates, like 10 death certificates to all these different insurance companies and all of that kind of stuff. So learning how to do something like that so that I wasn't grieving and running all over town trying to find a Kinko's, if those even still exist. And even just stuff like knowing how the facial recognition feature of photos works so that I could say to all of the family and friends, hey guys, go in using facial recognition, find all your favorite photos of dad. Let's put them in this shared album. And then I could easily make the memorial video of him instead of that being such a process to scramble. So that's just an example of how using the tools that we have to just make life easier can make what could be a really stressful situation a lot less stressful. And I think it helped my family because they were like, okay, Amanda's on it. Like she's got it. She's got all this stuff figured out. And so that's just like really kind of a personal example of how it touched me and how it surprised me to be organized in this way.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, we lost my father-in-law. It's been 13, 14 years now. And yeah, it's hard. That's a hard process to have to deal with all of that. And you think about Facebook accounts, Instagram accounts, their emails, different bank accounts, credit card statements, and all those things that you were saying you need the death certificates for in order to change things, move things around, all that kind of stuff, close accounts, get new names on the accounts. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. Thank you for kind of sharing. And I would love to make sure we have the link in the show notes for everyone because it is an interesting look at. I think sometimes we forget, we don't zoom out to that bigger picture of like, why does this actually matter? Like, okay, with digital clutter, it's kind of like sight unseen. If I can pay more money to get more storage, do I really have to deal with it? Is it really that big of deal? But also, I think what might interest some of my listeners, because I think a lot of my listeners are eco-friendly. And one of the things they struggle with is the guilt of letting something go and having something end up in a landfill because it feels one, wasteful, not good for the environment. I think a lot of my listeners are interested in being more intentional about what they buy and choosing products that are better and things like that. One thing, you had an interesting statistic recently about how much energy is used up when we have all this stuff just stored. Not even it. I mean, we can talk about it being sent around the world on all these servers, but even just storing it and how that's not great for the environment. So I think we start micro with the digital clutter, which we did in this episode of like, how does it affect me personally? But now we've talked about how it affects your family, why it's important to have things organized, and how one, you can do that for yourself to help your family, but then two, if you are also helping other family members, and even after they pass. And then three, let's look at the global impact of it.
Yeah, 100%, because I don't do this because I think everybody should be at inbox 0. I'm not, like, well, it just feels good to be at inbox 0. Like, my podcast is called the Good Enough-ish podcast, so I'm looking to find ways for people in a good enough-ish way just because it's hard to be a human these days. So whatever we can do to make life as a human a little bit better is amazing, and I think exactly to your point, knowing about the environmental impact of digital clutter can be an extra motivator for somebody that's like, wow, I had no idea. The statistic that I had shared recently was that the UK government actually came out and asked people during a severe drought to delete emails and photos to save energy and water because the cat photo that you are saving from 12 years ago, like that lives somewhere. And there are cooling systems and data centers that exist to keep that information. So I was like, wow, I'd never heard of a government saying, please delete your emails. Yeah, I think that can be such an extra motivator for somebody that's like, oh, wow. And that's also why I like to teach the basics of like email, for example. People don't necessarily understand the difference between delete and archive. So they're just like archive because I don't want to see it anymore. But what archive means is you're just stuffing it into a filing cabinet that is in a data center somewhere. And, that's why you still have 30,000 emails. They're not gone. They're still there.
Well, and is there a way to switch it like the default to trash instead of archive? Because I've noticed and maybe that's just whichever. So I use Mail on my computer, which is because I have a Mac. So I use the Apple Mail program. But I have 5 email addresses currently pulled up on there. And I have a couple more that aren't showed on there. But anyway, so I currently have like 5 or 6 up on I've got a work one and a personal one and my daughter's and and a joint one. And so I've got a few. So I realize on sometimes like when I'm swiping on my phone to delete something, it automatically archives and I have to like go into more and then trash it if I want to actually trash it versus some of them are defaulted to trash.
That is a setting, and actually, I think I'm gonna do it in one of these 60-second tech tips because you can change the swipe actions, and what I learned recently, because I thought once you change the swipe actions, it just sets it for all of the email addresses, but you might have different swipe actions for different email addresses, and you can fix that.
Which makes sense because some of them are a Google account. Some of them are private email accounts because it's a custom email account. And some of them are iCloud accounts. I have lots of things going on. Amanda, you probably be like, what is going on? But I do keep it organized. May not be the
I'm sure. I'm sure it's beautifully organized.
It might not be the most efficient, but it's organized. But I have a funny archive email story that I'll share. There was a time in my life where I was like, I'm going to clean up these emails. And I thought I was just getting rid of the trash. But oh no, I deleted my entire, all of my old emails. Anything that was archived, I deleted. So as you're sitting here listening to this, is like I took my filing cabinet and I took it out in the backyard and I lit the thing on fire. Yeah, I mean, when I say I'm a type A in a lot of ways, and when I say it was all neatly categorized and organized and filed away, it was. And then all of a sudden, all these folders are empty, and I'm like, my God. And I had a panic moment of like, what did I just do? It was like 20,000 emails. What did I just do? It was like 10 years of emails. And you know what? I survived because I thought, well, I could undo all of that, or I would have to recategorize it again. I was like, that's not going to happen. And I could go through all 20, I have 30 days. I could go through all 20,000 emails. That sounds like an awful idea. So I literally just made a list of people and places and businesses that I thought I would need information from: family, friends, school, our daughter's school, people that might have sent photos or something like that I would maybe want access to. And I went and looked for those people and just brought those in, and everything else disappeared 30 days later, and I have survived. I've been okay.
I know, I tell people, like, go nuclear sometimes, like, you went nuclear you did it accidentally, but, heck, like, sometimes like I said, like, 99% of that stuff is not stuff that we're gonna necessarily be looking for again. Now, if it's a work email and things like that, obviously, it could be contracts and clients and important things, but
Actually, I'll tell you something. So here's what happened. I misplaced, I'm sure I have it printed out somewhere, but I can't find it, which is really weird for me. But I misplaced our lease agreement for this home that I live in right now. We moved in November 2021, and I could not find it, but it's coming up for renewal. And there's a new trash ordinance going in place in San Diego. Anyway, long story short, I wanted to look back to the lease to see if we're supposed to pay the trash or if the landlord's supposed to pay the trash. And I just asked our property manager for it, and she sent it over that day. Problem solved, right? So most of these things, even if it's something important, super important, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be able to get it. Even if, things like, you're in a fire and like your social security card and your birth certificate get burned up, there are ways to get these things back. Are they easy? No. But is it going to be life altering? Probably not if it's a digital file. Someone somewhere probably has a copy for you.
right, and that's another example of an emergency why you might want to get a little bit more digitally organized. I used to do these, and I may still do them for the rest of the year, the Get It Done live workshops where I would get people together and we would tackle together a topic, and so I had one, and this was right after the fires in California, and so I was really like, "Okay, guys, I know you're all thinking about this, so let's get together your digital go box and go bag, and we're gonna just get all of your most important documents. We're not trying to organize all your files, just your most important documents, and we're gonna get them scanned in so that you feel like something happens and you have everything." So that's like another example of how being organized can make life so much easier when you really need it.
Yeah, right. And it doesn't have to be, yeah, like it doesn't have to be,
Doesn't have to be perfect. Scan them all into a Dropbox. Scan them all into a Dropbox folder and call it a day.
yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect. And again, that might not be the thing you need at the end of the day. But if you have to go to the Secretary of State or send your digital copy somewhere, that's going to be so much further ahead of the game to say, here, I have the digital version of it. It's so much easier to get your physical version instead of what other hoops are you going to have to jump through to get all of that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm all about doing your future self a favor whenever you can.
I love that. Love that so much. All right. Well, before we wrap up too much, I want to talk about mental load. You mentioned this a little bit earlier because digital clutter often hides behind the scenes and it's quietly adding to our always on, brain feeling, right? We're always on. And it's hard to relax because there's so much going on in our brain. So, what shifts do you recommend that women make, or anybody listening to this makes, so that they can feel more calm and in control?
Yeah, so I think my favorite thing with that are these so that's the S, the stuck on the learning curve, like those little tips, and I keep referring back to them, but the series that I'm doing that I'm just having so much fun with. It's the little stuff like, so for example, like this morning we ran out of milk. And so I can press and hold this button on my Apple Watch and I can say, add milk to the shopping list. And it's going to add it to a list on reminders. And not only is it going to add it to the list, it's going to put it in the exact category. And that's shared with my husband. And so he just goes to the store and whatever I've said is on the list, he just brings home. And it's magical because it's just that doing my future self a favor of doing it 30 seconds. It takes me 10 seconds and then magically milk comes back. So magically milk, but like I've told this story about the cupcake liners before because I was making cupcakes with my daughter and we ran out of cupcake liners. So in the moment, I just said, add it to the list. And like a week later, he came home from the store with cupcakes liners, and I was like, oh my god, it was like a Harry Potter spell I did or something. Like poof, cupcake liners. And so it's just stuff like that, or like even teaching. I keep talking about the Apple Watch because it's just an example of one of the tools that we have. This thing is a supercomputer and it is on our wrist. You can ping your phone. So if you lose your phone in the couch cushions all day long, you can ping your phone and find it. Or even, I was with, a millionaire the other day who's a CEO and has had his Apple Watch probably for 10 years or however long they've existed. He knew nothing about that he could change all these things and do all these different things on here, and his mind was blown. So it's just, I think, the little things, and I think, so I have this guide, the Busy Woman's Tech Survival Guide, which we have a coupon code for your audience. But one of the pieces of feedback that I get from people that get this guide is like, I had in my mind that I had to become some sort of tech guru to get on top of this. But now I'm learning that with just few small tweaks that are super easy to do, I feel suddenly so much more on top of things, even, just in 45 minutes having watched these videos. So it's like, I can't say it enough. It's like the little things. It's not spend 6 weeks organizing every one of your emails. It's like learn how to do these little things that are going to make your life so much easier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And doing it in a way that it does make progress. Because even when you were talking about someone telling you, spend the 30 minutes every day working on your email, I'm like, depending on how many emails you get in a day, you might just be like bailing water out of a boat that still has the hole in it. Like you're not making any progress. And yes, like it's not necessarily so much time you have to do every day. It's just, let's make this one little tweak. And then you're going to feel like, oh my God, the water is just draining out of this boat magically on its own. And I can now feel like I can make it to the other side of the shore.
Exactly, because like for email, for example, once you learn that manage subscriptions trick, you're going to see that all of a sudden the barrage starts to slow down. Like I did such a good job of unsubscribing about a month ago that I thought my internet was broken. Like I was like, why am I not getting any emails? And it was because I had been so ruthless of being like, enough. And so I think that's the trick. It's not constantly spending time decluttering. It's like stopping the flow so that you have less coming at you.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, I love it, Amanda. All right. Well, tell people, you just gave a little bit of a snippet there. Tell people about this tech guide you have, the coupon code you have for them, and where they can find it.
Yes. So it's called the Busy Woman's Tech Survival Guide. And it's fun because instead of it being this course that you have to go to with all these course logins and everything, it's basically like a 20+ page workbook. And with really clear action steps, my top 10 tips that I use every day and teach my VIP clients. And you can click on the videos and you'll get a little tutorial for each one of those tips and how to do it. And it has clear steps and links and how to and all of that kind of stuff. So with the code CLUTTERFREE, your listeners can get $5 off.
Awesome. I think that's fantastic. You guys check it out. I have it. It's lovely. And it's actionable, which is, I know you listening to this. Trust me, people. I know you want action. You guys ask me for that all the time. So this is it, guys. Like this will take you through and really get you on top of this stuff quickly and easily. And again, some of it might feel a little basic, but if you're not doing it, then you're not actually getting the benefit of it. So try it, do the tips and check it out and see. But I mean, there were things even in the email, like I was saying, I've got a lot of different email accounts, but it was so nice because even though I do have some different ones, the tips, I was able to tweak them and make them work for all of my different email accounts, which I think is fabulous. So I know you talk a lot about Google. You're a big Google Gmail fan. And which, again, I do have Google for some of mine, but some of mine are private emails because they're customary, right, to my work. But I was able to still use the same tips and tricks and do them. So it is helpful and it does make a big difference and it makes it so much easier. And then it's like email gets boring, which is super fun. Like I love, like you were saying, you felt like your internet was broken. Email gets boring because you don't have to continually swipe and delete and do all the things because it's already done for you, which is so nice. And I can go do more fun things. I don't want to spend time in my email. I hate it.
I know. I always use the analogy, like, a lot of us are goalies, and we're just standing there, and there's 1,000 soccer balls coming at us, and the score is 1,000-0 because you're just standing there, and you're just like, "I don't know what to do, and so I won't do anything." And then all of a sudden, you start to slow things down, and it's only a couple soccer balls coming at you a day, and you're like, "Oh, okay, I can handle this," you know? Yeah.
Totally. Oh, so true. So good. So good. Okay. Tell people where they can find you again. What's your links? What are your links?
They can find me at indigoorganizing.com, and they can find me on Instagram at hey.amandaj, and I have tons of tips on Instagram.
Perfect. Yeah, especially that fun new 60-second tech tip every day, which has been lovely. I've been having a lovely time following along and implementing. It's been really fun. All right. Well, okay, so my favorite way to end every episode is with 3 rapid fire questions. And since you've been on the show before, I'm not going to ask you what clutter free means to you. I changed up the first one. So the first one is, what's a favorite book that you like to recommend to others?
I thought about this all morning. And a favorite book that I love that I think is amazing for business owners, but even if you're not a business owner, I think it can be really interesting read. It's called The Alter Ego Effect: The Power of Secret Identities to Transform Your Life. And it is by a man named Todd Herman, and he is basically like a performance coach for athletes and entrepreneurs. And it's this whole idea about how if you're going through something challenging or you need to up level, you can actually kind of take on an alter ego, like a different identity, and that can help you be so much more successful in that endeavor. So like Beyonce, for example, is like Sasha Fierce, and Kobe Bryant had like the Black Mamba, and even like Martin Luther King, they talk about like didn't need glasses, but wore glasses to step into a certain role. So it's just very fascinating, and I've kind of created little alter egos for myself, and they're really fun.
I love it. I've never heard of that book, so I'm definitely going to check it out. That's a fun one. Thanks for the new recommendation. I love it. All right. Number 2, what is making you happy right now or in this season of life?
I am in my radical simplicity era. And that's just making me happy because I think I am in my life, in my business, just like really, I guess it's almost like kind of the focus method in action where I'm really taking time to think about what I want to focus my energy on and stripping away a lot of things that were good, but not amazing. And I just suddenly feel a lot more space and focus and creativity than I have in a really long time. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. Yeah.
I love that for you. That's fantastic. And number 3, what is a goal you have for yourself this year?
So I am really working on my morning routine. I'm getting up, I'm doing a 15-minute workout, I'm meditating, I'm doing a little email decluttering, I'm posting my first Instagram post. And so I'm like getting my little morning routine. And I've been pretty successful over the past 2 weeks, which is like a record for me.
Oh, I love that. That's so great. I actually just in my new course called Effortless Home, I talk about morning routines as one of the major routines you got to get down. And I actually break it into 2 parts because I think a lot of people clump them into one. But I have like the me part of your morning routine. So I'm like super cheesy. I call it that your me morning routine. And then your morning routine, which is generally more other focused, right? Getting your kids out the door for school, getting yourself out the door for work, those kinds of things that are more house and other focused versus yours, which you're talking about with your yoga and your, doing your stuff for you first. And having that be really important and making sure you set aside time for that. So I'm all about your new morning routine. Yeah, I love it.
Ooh, I love it, and I can't wait to pick up your new course. It sounds like it's so good.
No worries. I'll get it to you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. This has been a lovely conversation. And yeah, thanks for sharing some real quick wins, but also kind of some deeper insights as well. It was great.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was so much fun.
All right. Cheers. All right. What'd you think? I loved this conversation with Amanda. Digital clutter isn't one of those things that we often pay attention to because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And it's that moment, though, where your phone pops up and you're trying to take a picture and it's like you're out of space, like good luck. Or your computer starts to slow down, it starts to freeze up, it just starts to not work. That's when it really gets our attention. But the overwhelm is still there. So even if you don't have one of these moments where you come up against one of those big stop signs, you're probably overwhelmed and having to deal with technology before, like, it's just causing chaos in your life. It probably is because everything these days is online. And if you can't find what you need when you need it, then it's time to get it under control and have it work for you instead of you working for it, right? That is how I feel about all of our stuff, physically, emotionally, mentally, or digitally. All right. Because it can weigh on us just as heavy as those physical things. It could be stealing our time, your energy, your peace of mind. Now, Amanda's tips for recognizing those tech traps and then using that focus method are so powerful. So make sure you do check out her guide. She has that code for you, clutter free. You get $5 off, and it's a great resource. I wouldn't recommend her so highly if I didn't feel that way. All right, so she can help us get in control of our technology and not dread doing it, like having a decent time while we do it, okay? But I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode. Was there anything that stuck out for you today? Were there any tech traps that you were like, oh, yep, that's the one? Or anything that, maybe any digital things we didn't cover that you want to know what Amanda's thoughts are on that? Let us know about that as well, because I'm happy to get you the answers you need so we can do that together. All right, you can let me know by sending me a DM on Instagram. I am at wannabeclutterfree. You can share this episode in your stories, or you can join the discussion in our private Facebook community. It's the Wannabe Minimalist Family group over there, and I'd love to continue the conversation with you. And of course, it helps the show so much when you leave a rating or a review. You can do that on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on YouTube. And then don't forget to share the episode with a friend who could maybe use a little help with decluttering the digital stuff in their life as well. All right, special thanks to Amanda for joining me and, of course, sharing her wisdom with us. You can get the detailed show notes and all of her links by heading over to wannabeclutterfree.com/276. Again, wannabeclutterfree.com/the number 276. And actually, I just updated my website, so I'd love to know what you think about it too. So it's really clean and pretty, and I'm kind of in love with it. All right, and then be sure to join me next week for a guest interview with Meggie Mangione. We're going to be talking about her brand new book, Giving Clutter the Middle Finger, and diving into all things clutter and organizing, including our relationship with stuff, the seasons when organizing feels the hardest, and how neurodivergence and mental health challenges play a role in your clutter. All right, it's going to be a good one. I'm sure it's going to be a little spicy and juicy, so make sure you join us next week. All right, until next time, take care, keep things simple, be open to letting go of more, understand that you can take your technology one tip at a time, and remember that I believe in you. I'm Deanna Yates, and you've been listening to Wanna Be Clutter Free. I'll see you next week. Cheers.